So I got sent an interesting question this morning. The person said something along the lines of, Brett, when I'm meditating, uh, I get these jolts through my body, and it's like almost like getting electric shock, and I'm not sure what it means. Can you tell me what this means? And I've had this experience many, many times. I think if you're tapping into new frequencies, then, this is commonplace. It's what you would call normal. So what happens is when you start to meditate, you're changing your energy, you're tuning into different frequencies, your body's adjusting the whole time and reconfiguring and integrating, and there's a lot going on because you're operating not just on a physical level, but you're moving up the levels into mental, emotional, energetic, and beyond. And so when you start tapping into these higher frequencies, then you start to upload and download different information, and that reorganizes you at different levels. And then when that reorganization, that change takes place, it starts to filter down into the levels and integrate and embed itself into the different levels. It's a bit like when you upgrade your operating system, and we've all had this. We get online and we update our computers and our phones, and they have all the bug fixes in there, and they might have some new tweaks in there to make it easier for you to access certain things or to move information around. And then other times, they dial it back because they need to make the use of the applications a bit more stable. So there's a lot going on there, and when it finally filters down into your physical body, it makes these adjustments. So these jolts that you're getting, like I know what you're talking about, you're sitting there, you're meditating, you're relaxed, and all of a sudden you get this twitch happen, right? And so what I see that as being is that your body is either moving old energy out or new energy's coming in, and it's reorganizing inside your system, and it's adjusting. Things are starting to adjust and move around, and then when they lock in, that's when you get the change coming. And so this is really good in the way that instead of doing what most people in the beginning do, is that they're trying to make this change. So they're doing a lot of effort, a lot of focus and active work to make a change. What you're doing here is it's like you're going into the operating system, you're changing some code, and then you're hitting restart. And as it restarts, that becomes the new code, and then it adjusts into your body, and then you have a new normal, a new autopilot. So for me, this is really where it's at in terms of change work, because instead of making all these massive changes on the outside and then running like mad to keep it all together, or on outward appearances, like the duck across the water is all smooth and calm, and then underneath it's kicking like mad just to maintain everything. That's not what we want. That's like a carrying the bucket syndrome, where if you need water to get you need water from the well and you need to bring it home. It's like carrying buckets every day to and from the well. It works, but it's so active, it requires you to be there, it requires your attention and effort. And what you really want to do is just create a pipeline from the well to your house, and you turn the tap on and the water comes. So instead of doing all this active work, which is what most people on a third dimensional consciousness will do, which takes a lot of time because you're working mass to mass, you're actually going up the levels to a more either a level of mind or a level of emotion or a level of energy and information, or beyond that. and you're tuning into these higher level programming languages or frequencies, and you're making changes up there, and then it locks itself in, and then when you reintegrate, then the whole system is upgraded and updated. So although it can be a little unnerving, a little scary if you haven't done this before, it's sort of normal. It's like when you tinker with your computer and you go into the background programming. I actually had a guy look at my computer last night because I had a new system, a trading bot going in so I could trade cryptocurrency, and it wasn't working the way it was supposed to. So he had to go into the deeper parts of the computer, into the terminal, and recode things and update things and move around. And then once he'd done that, all the programming that was sitting there waiting to be used was available. So sometimes these new changes, these new habits that you're trying to instill, integrate, activate, they'll work perfectly once there's a place for it to dock, or once the mind can become aware of how to look for it, and then it just becomes your new normal, and then it's part of your new reality. So that's the idea behind making these changes and using meditation to make the changes, is that you're not doing it on a third dimensional level, you're doing it on a fifth dimensional beyond, where you're tuning in to that reality where it already exists there. And just to give you another little opening to see it through, is that if we're looking at computers again as a metaphor, your computer is capable of running just about any software there is out there, an operating system. Just you need to know how to make it ready for that for you to accept that. And then once you can, then you have access to all the information out there on the internet. So it's not a question of, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? It's more of, have you got things set up for it to be accepted by your system? So if we go back to my situation with this trading bot, is it because I was running OS Mac, its configuration was automatically blocking the software from activating. And so I asked the guy, is this normal? Is this a normal thing? And he says, well, for some Macs it is and some Macs it's not. And which was really interesting, because you think it would be the same across the board depending on the brand you're using. But here we go, now we're talking about there's different versions of the platform. So everyone has different versions of their operating system that they're using. And when things aren't working and not lining up, it's not necessarily that there's anything wrong with your system or anything wrong with the program you're trying to reinstall or update. It's more that perhaps in the programming language that you're trying to work it from, it hasn't got the capacity to make those connections. So as you're meditating, you're going up in these higher frequencies, up the pyramid, so to speak, where the bandwidth gets more compressed. In other words, if you look at the physical plane, third dimensional, it's like dial-up, right? And then you go up to the mental plane, and it's like DSL. And then you go up to the emotional plane, it's like cable, and then you go up to the energetic plane, and it's like optic fiber. And then after that, it's like technology we haven't seen before. It's more like telepathic, right? So, as an example. And so when you're going up these levels, not only are there more options available to you, but the energy and information is more compressible. It's more what's Dan Winters used the word. That's been a while since I've dug up that information. So he talks about nested loops. And so information nesting itself inside itself. And so there's a different way of organizing the information. And the word will come to me. I wish I had it right now. But anyway, it'll come to me. So remember, we're moving from a linear consciousness of like 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. This is the sequence, to a multi-dimensional consciousness where information, lots, like 10 times, for example, the information can be compressed into one unit of space. And so it's a bit like a zip file. So instead of having a file with all these things, you got one file that's zipped and compressed, and then when you have the key to activate it, it opens up and the whole thing is available to you. So these jolts, a bit like a zip file opening up and kicking in. All this new energy comes into the body. It's a different frequency, it's a different intensity, and it takes a little while. It takes a little while for the body to adjust. And as you can see, I'm a bit sniffly and I've been sneezing like crazy the last few days. And I'm not sick, but it appears that I'm sick, but I'm not actually sick. What's happening is my body is upgrading itself to a new level of mind, a new level of energy frequency, where I can embody a lot more information than I previously had the capacity for. And so what happens is when that takes place, all the old structure starts to break up and die, basically, and then what's revealed underneath is the new level of mind, the new level of body, and the new structure of energy. So what we're doing is we're operating from a new baseline now. Still we're in a physical body, still we're interacting with the physical plane, but our orientation has shifted to a new level. And so this is where our baseline is, this is where our consciousness rests. And from here, there's a lot more available to us, just like with programming languages. I'm learning about coding and programming now on computers because it's the closest thing that I can relate this energy work to in the mind and the body. And so they say, the first things to becoming a coder and a programmer is pick a language to learn, because there's multiple languages in programming computers. So it's like, okay, well, which language is the best? Because you don't want to waste your time learning languages that aren't useful. So what happens is you pick a language which is pretty broad, and then you can get a lot done within that spectrum of language. And then as your skill improves and your reach improves and your influence gets greater and more precise, you want to add different languages so you can become even better at your craft. Another example of this is in martial arts. You start off with a martial art, and you go through the levels, you go through the system, you learn the rankings, you learn all the movements, and then you get your black belt, and you essentially you master that system. But that's not, you haven't mastered martial arts, you just mastered a particular style or language in martial arts. And then if you want to become better and more complete, then you go on to the next style and the next style and the next style. So that's now we're getting into a different territory. But basically, once you've sort of got a handle on the physical level, the third dimension, then you want to move into the fourth, which is understanding time and the bridge between multi-dimensional consciousness, and the astral plane and dream planes and lucid dreaming ideas, and unlimited thinking. And then there's the bridge in the fourth, or your heart center, and then you come down into the third dimension, into the physical plane. And this is a side note, but I see a lot of people trying to escape the physical plane to get to the fifth dimensional plane. But we're, as far as I can understand, that's where we're from, and we've been there, done that, and now we want to move that into the third dimensional plane. So the heart center, is a very important part to get clear, because you want to bridge that gap and start to move. You're learning from the physical and take it with you into your creative space, and then when you've got your image of what you want to create based on what you've learned, and then you create a new experience up here, a new vision up here, and then you bring it down and embed it into the third dimensional space, and then you can live your dream, basically. So that's a long answer to a short question, which is, when you're feeling jolts in your meditation, what does it mean? Well, that's what it means. It means you're going up into the higher planes. You're having a new experience and a new frequency. Your part of your brain is tracking, your consciousness is tracking that experience, and it's using that learning to integrate that into your new creation, your new design of your new life in your new body and mind and dimension and physical reality. And then it comes down and embeds it, and then it reorganizes it. And sometimes it happens so quickly that it just flicks old energy, that an old coding out. It's just like straight in the garbage bin and empty the trash, gone. And so you get this jolt, and it feels a little weird, but at the end of the day, it's all good. The problem, one of the problems is, and this is why I say to people, keep a notepad and journal things, because when you're shifting through these timelines, at least in your consciousness, whether it's physical or not, sometimes when you update your coding, you're not going to have any memory of the old code, because it'll supersede and it becomes almost irrelevant. So it pays to keep track of external memory, so you can keep track of where you've been. And just to be a bit more clear on that, the example is, if you're going to and from work in your car in the same way every day, because that's all you know, and you do that for years and years, and then one day someone says, hey, there's a shortcut this way, it'll take 15 minutes off your travel time, and you go, oh, okay, maybe I'll try it. And then one day you get to try it, and you go, oh geez, that is much better. Then from that moment on, you're going to take that every single day, and then the old pattern, the old route becomes obsolete, and you, in a very short period of time, you'll forget that you ever went that way until you're reminded. So there's a bit of food for thought. There's a lot more in that answer than just the answer to why am I getting these jolts of energy. But that gives you an idea, a column, a spectrum of a channel of information to explore, and there's a lot in there, that's for sure.